Good evening, or mid-afternoon, whichever way you would like to see things. My name's Greta Chapman, and I'm the CEO for the South Dakota Hall of Fame, and we are just overwhelmed with the participation, the beautiful campus, the hospitality, and all of you coming out to celebrate with us for this great program, the Acts of Excellence. So thank you very much for being here. We have a great event planned, and we're very excited to honor all these folks. Before we get started with the program, I would like to acknowledge some folks that have helped make this happen. And we are very appreciative, again, for the Lake Area Tech College for what a magnificent campus and what a great space. Something to be very proud of, not only in Watertown, but for the state of South Dakota. We hear often about the great things that come with this campus. I'd also like to mention, and you'll hear from him as well, Endowment Chair Miles Beacom, who is very passionate about what this means for all of your stories, and in particular how your stories help young people chase their dreams. And you just cannot underestimate what all of your acts of excellence mean in that regard. We also have some area inductees, and I would like them to stand as I read their names, and then if you would give them a round of applause. Joy Nelson, Donis Roberts, Prudy Calvin, John Calvin's spouse. Well, by accident, Prudy says. Please remain standing. No, we're going to make this real. And then Julie Random from the Terry Redland Center for Terry Redland. Would you please give them all a very loud applause? So the other person that I would like to acknowledge and reference that's very important to how we share the stories and how those stories continue throughout the years. We have been an organization for over 45 years. And we really have moved this mission to have it be a household word so that all ages of people can understand that in South Dakota, you can really get things done. You can have your dreams and things can happen. And one of the partners that we have that we're extremely grateful for is through the South Dakota Public Broadcasting. So Carol Johnson, if you would please stand and give her a round of applause. It is so important to have these stories reach people, and we all love and adore South Dakota Public Broadcasting, and their partnership has really elevated us to a whole nother level by sharing the content and having access to their studios. It's really an amazing partnership for us, and we hope the same for them. I'm going to now, there's a couple of folks as well, but I also want to very much thank Sanford Health. Cindy Midland is here and will be the MC for our program, so I'll introduce her in just a short bit. But Sanford Health is the sponsor for the Acts of Excellence, and what makes that such a great partnership as well is because obviously their reach is quite large, and for them to know us and for us to know them and the great work that they do and what excellence means in healthcare and what excellence means with stories across the state. So we are immensely grateful for Sanford's sponsorship of the Acts of Excellence. I will now there'll be a brief presentation about our year in 2020, and then we'll have remarks after that from our endowment campaign chair, Miles Beacom.
My name is Miles Beacom, and I am the South Dakota Hall of Fame Endowment Chair. For over 45 years, the Hall of Fame has continued to celebrate and inspire generations of dream chasers across our great state. We do this through our programs that include the induction of individuals. Legends in Learning is a premier digital K-12 South Dakota history program available to all classrooms across the state. We recognize individuals or groups with our Acts of Excellence Awards that celebrate everyday acts throughout South Dakota communities. Our exhibits at the Visitor and Education Center in Chamberlain showcases inductee stories with new additions each year and traveling exhibits around the state. Our programs are available in digital platforms with an increase of use this year alone. And our collection of South Dakota stories is one of the most comprehensive, with an average use of twice weekly by media outlets. Inductees are everyday people that persevere through challenging times, sharing success with others, learning from mistakes, and appreciating the work as their story continues to impact South Dakota today and into the future. It is for these reasons I'm asking you to consider contributing to the endowment campaign to continue these legacy stories and make the Hall of Fame a household word that inspires our youth to chase their dreams as well. We are on the home stretch to reach our goal of $3 million. Be a dream chaser that shares and connects South Dakotans to be the best state in our country. Thank you.
Miles, before you come on up, so the class of 2020 will have their ceremony this September. I'm sure that's not an uncommon thing that you've heard in more than one ways as we've gone through this last year. But Mike Cartney is one of those inductees. So Mike, if you would please stand, and we'll give you a round of applause as the new inductee into the Hall of Fame.
I want everyone to know that this is a new Hall of Fame record for an attendance at Act of Excellence celebration. So I think everyone here deserves a round of applause. Thank you for joining in. Greta gave me some notes to read, but I really don't want to read those. I want to tell you a little story. Greta joined the Hall 8 years ago, and she thought it was just going to be a smooth position. No, she didn't. When she joined, the Hall of Fame was $60,000 underwater. And so when she joined, all she did was spend 12 months a year trying to raise enough money to keep the Hall of Fame moving forward. I had the opportunity to join Greta on the board about 6 years ago. And we said, we need to change some things. And we have so many great stories through the South Dakota Hall of Fame that we have to share those with the youth of South Dakota. Because you look at the Hall of Fame inductees, none of them were born with a lot, but they worked their tail off to be successful. And we said, these are incredible dreams for us to be able to share with the youth of South Dakota, because a lot of them today in middle school and high school believe they've kind of hit that dead end. And they said, I don't have an opportunity to really grow. And what we want them to do is share these stories with them so they know challenges are out there, and they always have been. And they have the opportunity to chase their dreams in South Dakota, and they can accomplish anything. And that's really what we sat back and we said, how do we do that? And we said, we need to free up some of Greta's time. We said, we need to find a way to raise $3 million, and that would take care of about 20% to 25% of the annual expenses. So then 25% of her time can be out on the road finding ways to do better things in the hall to educate people what great things are happening in South Dakota. Acts of Excellence is another great example. So we can identify people that are doing great things in this state and share that with other people in the state so others can say, I want an act of excellence as well. And those things can happen. We're close to hitting our goals for our endowment, but we need help for that. But at the same time, when you look at the success that we've had, when you go into the Hall of Fame and you look at the inductees and those stories, what great stories we have to share. So we have to continue to push those out. We have over 700 inductee stories today. Think about that, 700 superstars in the state that we've identified, and there's a lot more. So we need to continue to share those stories. You know, everyone in South Dakota, we're all pretty humble. They don't like to brag about themselves. They like to point out other people have done great things. But we need those stories so we can share them with the youth of the state. We have so many great things going on. The Acts of Excellence program that the different program award winners that you're going to see today are incredible stories, and they're happening right here. This gives us a great opportunity to continue to share, again, these stories, not only in Watertown, these stories are going to be shared across the state. In our website, you wouldn't believe the number of hits that we get that come in from outside of South Dakota, and it might be people that used to live here. How many hits that come in from outside of the country as well. We're being watched, and we're doing some great things, so we have to continue on that path. Well, Greta, are you ready? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
And again, this is incredible just looking at this crowd today. And again, wait until you hear the Acts of Excellence stories. You're going to say, this is phenomenal. And we're doing these things every day in South Dakota. Okay, Greta.
Thanks, Miles. Thank you. Thanks, Miles. I would like to introduce our Act of Excellence Sanford sponsor representative, director of the Watertown Clinic, Cindy Midland, to come forward for kicking off our program. And we'll let the celebration begin.
Thank you, Greta. And I am going to follow Greta's words because I don't want to miss out on any of the details of these wonderful stories. Sanford Health is very proud to be a sponsor of this, and it's a wonderful program. There were some of these things that I already knew, having been born and grew up in Watertown. There were some of the stories I didn't know, so it was very fun to read about these, and a great honor to be able to share them with you. And read them to you. So as a woman of a certain age, you'll have to pardon me with my glasses, or we don't know what I'll be saying. So, all right. You're going to hear stories about South Dakotans who are being celebrated for their acts of excellence that are a key part of the South Dakota Hall of Fame's mission. As you saw in the video, the Hall is much more than an annual awards ceremony. These acts of excellence remind us that all South Dakotans are doing extraordinary things each and every day across our great state. We're pleased to have the privilege of honoring acts of excellence across South Dakota with these celebrations. I'll be introducing our 9 acts of excellence for their awards. We ask that those individuals, and if they have guests, to come forward with my reading of their act of excellence to the front of the stage here. And please hold your applause until the reading of the act. And once read, there'll be a short premiere video about the act. And when completed, Miles Beacom will present a commemorative certificate and decal, along with their picture being taken in front of the stage with the Hall and Sanford ambassadors, and then a group picture over there to the left of the stage with the lights, or the right of the stage, my left. Our first act of excellence is the Goss House restoration. Would Brad Johnson and any guests please come forward? Through the generosity of donors and the hard work of the Watertown community, the decade-long project to restore the 130-year-old Goss Opera House to its rightful place as a community centerpiece has been accomplished. The renovation project began in 2008, was completed in the spring of 2020. More than $2.85 million was committed to the project, a noble effort to preserve and restore for future generations. It is envisioned as a main gathering place for the community, housing businesses and special events such as concerts and performances. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem has called the Goss a cultural landmark, and that it is. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
This is just an amazing task that they undertook with the restoration and preservation of the Goss Opera House. And you really need to take some time and go online and look up Goss Opera House and look at the video. It's an amazing accomplishment.
how would you describe your act of excellence for others to consider doing such a task like that? When you look at where it was and where it is today, Brad and Jamie, how would you answer that? That's an incredible task that you took on.
Well, the task that we've done is completely renovate a historic building, which has this beautiful about 500-seat theater in it. And the theater was built in 1889 and largely went dormant in the 1950s, had been little used before that, but had become a forgotten part of Watertown. And starting in 2008, a private individual started to renovate the building, and he carried the load for some time. And then we took over as a nonprofit foundation in 2018, and in a period of nearly a year and a half, raised $5 million to finish the restoration of this building.
We have so many great spaces in here, not just the beautiful, gorgeous Opera Hall, but we have a landing, we have rental spaces, we have just great community gathering places. And so people have been not aware of all of the opportunity in this building, and people are just starting to come in. And so many people didn't even know the Opera Hall existed in this building in Watertown. And so I get the fun job of welcoming people in and showing them all the opportunity that we have here. And if you could see our calendar, it's really starting to book up with so many different events. And that's what I love, is that it's not just musical theater things that are happening. It's classrooms, it's meetings, it's the opportunities are just endless for what we can do in here.
You know, the fact that we as a community put this investment into this building has had a tremendous economic impact on Watertown. I mean, I've never seen a community take off like this one has taken off. So it's not just the theater and the building project that has taken off, it's the entire community, because we all were willing to put our money and our time and our effort into preserving our history. And we'll be drawing, you know, visitors and audience members from all over the region to this area. And it's heartwarming.
The next act of excellence is Lake Area Tech students reach for the stars. Would the Lake Area Tech College students, instructor, president, and guests please come forward? Securing internships are program requisites for many students in higher education, and Lake Area Technical College uses partnerships and collaborations to give its students the best possible educational experience. Over the last 5 years, students at Lake Area Technical College's Electronic Systems Technology, Robotics, and Aviation Maintenance Technology programs have successfully participated in competitive internships with NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, at sites across the nation. Navigating the intricate application process and being accepted into internships like these show that the sky really is the limit for students enrolled at programs at Lake Area Tech in Watertown. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
Lake Area Technical Institute's Electronic Systems Technology, Robotic, and Aviation Maintenance Technology programs have successfully landed competitive internships with NASA. And here we are in South Dakota, and we're competing with kids from all over the country. And at Lake Area, they provided those internships.
So yeah, the NASA internships came about here a few years ago. We got a grant, and then from that kind of developed into if any kids want to try applying. And I think that first year we had a few kids apply and got into it. They do a summer online kind of curriculum thing and share their ideas and some teamwork stuff over online. before online was so popular. And then they get a chance, if they pass that and do well, they get to go on the actual site, so different NASA space centers, and do some hands-on team activities with kids students from around the country. So,
well, I thought it was a pretty unique experience getting to work with a bunch of different students from across the country that are like all basically interested in the same things that, well, I was and our classmates were. It was kind of fun just to get to be there and see everything. And I went to Houston, and then just compete in like a little critical thinking type competitions. It was pretty fun.
Philip, how about your experience?
One of the chief engineers for the robotic arm that they were going to be using on Perseverance and other, like the space shuttle, the ISS, all different types of things. And so that certainly piqued my interest, being somebody who's very interested in robotics and different things like that. So I'd say that was more or less the experience that we were able to actually work with the engineers, but also like to dig in a little bit more as to what Ethan was saying. At least in Langley, every time that we had our meals, we had probably 2 or 3 meals in the actual cafeteria for the base. And so we were able to go around, if you were confident enough and willing to put your ego aside, thinking that you're all so smart, and go and talk to different people that work there. It was truly an eye-opening experience, and a lot of the engineers were more than willing to talk to you. And honestly, a lot of them were more so interested in what I was doing and didn't really let me ask them too many questions because they were asking me all these questions. So it was definitely a very cool experience.
The next act of excellence is SDSU Extension offers Lakota Dakota Games Guide. Would Prairie Walkling and any guests please come forward? The Extension Service at South Dakota State University is providing a resource guide to a series of Lakota and Dakota games. Content for the resources was provided by Jeremy Red Eagle of Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate and Mike Marshall, a Sikangu Lakota artist. The goal is to restore and reintroduce traditional games which were once taught for survival but now are played for fun. The resource includes photos and instructions on how to play and how to construct game pieces. It's easy to use and promotes physical activity for families, teachers in classrooms, tribal programs, and museum presenters, among others. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
So let me jump right in, folks. And would you first describe what Dakota and Lakota Traditional Games Guide is and how it came to be?
The Dakota and Lakota Traditional Games Resource Guide is a written description of and photographs of 6 Lakota games and 6 Dakota games. And I coordinated the project as a free download off the SDSU Extension website. And Jeremy and Mike provided the content. And it was funded through the SNAP Ed grant. And it's a strategy to provide a form of physical activity to families, as well as preserving and sharing important cultural knowledge.
What was the catalyst for it? Why did the idea come up and why did you think it was important?
So we have community coalitions and we help guide them in choosing initiatives that will improve the environment for healthy eating and physical activity. Traditional games was one of our physical activity options. And our Lakota Homes Coalition in Rapid City was first interested in that initiative. And so we set up a training with the International Traditional Games Society out of Montana. the trainings were really positive, and but I did hear some participants say that they were really interested in Lakota games and Dakota games, and because we learned games from all over North America.
So like with the lacrosse, which just to be clear that there is a difference between the Dakota and Lakota side of things when it comes to that. Lakotas on the west side of the Missouri actually played shinny, whereas on closer to Minnesota and where we're at, we played lacrosse, so the sticks were different. In the language, the game was called the same thing, but you know, our things always were dictated by our ecosystem and the place where we were living. But they said that these games were a form of education. They were, you know, kids when they're playing these things, they're perfecting, they're learning their skills as hunters, as warriors. For the girls, you know, how to take care of a home, the teepees, you know, putting them together. So everything was based off of what was going to help them to survive.
One thing about the games, I think people have a particular notion about how Native people are, but you know, we had games just like any other culture. I think it makes a good bridge, you know, when people come. I get a lot of non-Native people come and want to play the games and learn about the different games we have. And I think it just makes it a little more, makes us more human.
Next up is the Meatball Ministry. Would Jean and Betty Tornes please come forward, and any guests they may have? It's been said that the fastest way to someone's heart is through their stomach. Jean and Betty Tornes of rural Big Stone City have taken that concept and expanded upon it to create the Meatball Ministry. What started as a thoughtful gesture towards aging parents, this idea has turned into a community fellowship program providing meatballs to those in need of a good meal and a boost of spirits. Averaging 12 dozen meatballs each week, that kind act now goes beyond the traditional church family, reaching the ecumenical community and outlying areas of Northeast South Dakota. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
Do you want to talk more about your act on your meatball ministry?
What we did initially, we were making meatballs for family members who were getting elderly, and then we had a couple friends who had medical issues.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2011, a new pastor came into our church. He called and wanted to talk to us. And he has said he had heard about the meatball ministry, and there had been a division in the church. And he gave us a directory and challenged us to give everybody who remained in that church meatballs.
Wow.
And we did accomplish that. And while he was here, we gained 250 new members. What we are doing on the average is a recipe every week, Meatball Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about 14 or 15 dozen. In a year's time, we go through about 300 pounds of ground meat.
Wow.
And we have given between 300 and 350 people in a year's time.
Mm-hmm.
And we package them in dozens. We'll give them each 2 dozen.
Yeah. What is some of the feedback when you give people? What are their gratitude they share? And
sometimes they even send us money.
It's not unusual for us to get thank yous in the mail. It's not unusual for us to get, occasionally there'll be a check in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
They say they want to help support us, and we've got one individual who said she never wants to see this end. She wants it to continue. However, at the age we're at, we don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do it, as long as we're able.
What's your favorite part about it?
visiting with people.
Well, we were formerly retailers. So I know a lot of the people, and it's fun. Quite often they'll invite us to come in, chit chat, have a cup of coffee.
How do you hope to inspire other South Dakotans to kind of do great things?
Well, I think you could say the fellowship, and if we're giving over 300 people meatballs every year, and we've done it for 10 years.
Yeah, we actually have his cousin in Denver, Colorado area, and she is making the meatballs and starting to do that in a smaller way.
The conclusion is when Carl Larson left the church, he went to another church, but he said, you really don't realize how many lives you've touched. And we have people who remark to us, we'll meet them and they'll remark about this, only a little town will this happen.
Our next act of excellence is the Millette Association Preserves State History and First Governor's Home. Would Prudy Calvin and any guests please come forward? She's not going to let you not come, so. Back in 1943, a group of Watertown area citizens faced a daunting task: save and restore the Millette House. The Millette House was home to Arthur C. Millette, last governor of Dakota Territory, first governor of the state of South Dakota. Although the house had been an elegant structure when the Millettes lived in it, after they left Watertown in 1895, the house slowly deteriorated. By 1943, the house was in such sad shape that the fire department had condemned it. That's when concerned citizens stepped in. The Millette House Association was formed and continues their wonderful work to this day. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
We want to talk about the Millette House. And this was a house that was built for our first governor prior to the state being a state, and we were Dakota Territory at the time. So it was built right around 1885. And with the restoration and the upkeep of this facility, Jim and Prudy, if you could share why it's important for Watertown and for you.
Well, to me, I love history and I love to share history, and I think we learn from history. I am amazed by all that we talk about the Millette family at the house, and things didn't come easily for them. They came here and there was nothing, and they built a town, they built a state, and of course they built the beautiful house that they lived in. And we are just fortunate that we can step back in time and take people through this house and talk about our history and talk about all the things that we have accomplished through the years. And the Millette House just opens the door for letting us do this for schools, for adults, for everyone.
South Dakota's last territorial governor, and then the first governor of statehood. There's only one of them, and he lived in Watertown, and so we're real proud of that.
What do you think the Millette House means to Watertown and South Dakota today because of the work that's been done?
Nobody else can have the first governor's house, and people come. We get tourists every year that come. They read about it, they see it on our tourism sites, and they come to Watertown just to see the house, and they are amazed. They've never been in South Dakota, many of them, and it's a draw. It is a real draw to them.
And the state as well. And, you know, the other organizations in the state that are deeply involved in historic preservation and in tourism, we're on the list. And so if people come to visit our Redland Center in Watertown, the Redland Center people will say, make sure you go see the Millette House. And so it's a real treasure here.
And because of the great people of Watertown, you've been able to restore it. And now it truly is a treasure for South Dakota.
It's important that we preserve it because a lot of people say, I haven't been there in a long time, or I'm going to go there. And so I think people have a pretty good awareness of the Millette House. And, it's important we preserve something like that when we have the opportunity to do that. So I'm thankful for the ladies that formed the first board back in the 1940s to buy the property and set in motion what we have today. And our plan is to continue, so it'll be there for generations in the future.
The Redland for Aspiring Artists is our next act of excellence. Would Julie Ranum please come forward? The Terry Redland Art Center is a magnificent complex that showcases the South Dakota natives' masterpieces. Terry Redland's works of art are well known and admired throughout the country, and his story and legacy are captured in the Art Center. But besides the focus on the art that Redland created, the Terry Redland Art Center is a place where the facilities and the programs expose young people to the world of creativity and encourage them to explore their own artistic passions. The Art Center also includes 30 acres of park and wetlands surrounding the center called the Redlands Living Painting. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
Would you talk a little bit about what you do?
We're just carrying out the wishes of Terry Redland. It was very important to him that the Art Center be a place of inspiration for all, but especially for our youth and artists of all ages. It was so important, in fact, that there's a special room here in the gallery that he called his early art room. And in that space, you will see a variety of art forms, from pencil sketches to oil paintings to acrylic art, all different mediums that Terry explored throughout his lifetime. There are sketches in that space that he drew as early as age 6. And as you might imagine, those pieces are not all masterpieces, maybe by some people's standards, but Terry believed that everyone starts somewhere. And that early art room was intended to show that he started somewhere at a very young age. And his motto, and every time he spoke with a student group, he would tell them, if your work is all yours, never copied, and it's the best you can do at the time, that's good enough. Just keep working and you'll keep getting better. And he truly lived by that. He shared that with everybody. And he really believed that in order to inspire people, we couldn't be critics, we needed to encourage.
Well, a great example of why Terry Redland himself is an inductee into the South Dakota Hall of Fame is his, not only his talents, but his inspiration.
For Terry Redland, and for those who had the pleasure of knowing him, he was a very humble man. He never was boastful about his gifts or his abilities. He really truly believed that everybody can achieve whatever they want to achieve. They just need to be focused and dedicated and work hard. And that's really what he did. And that room is an example of that.
Well, one of the questions I want to ask you that we ask everybody is, how do you think this act of excellence, and in your case, the work that you do with young people, how does it make South Dakota a better place?
I think South Dakota is so inspiring on so many levels for everyone. I think being recognized for this act of excellence reinforces to us that what we are doing and what we're trying to do to inspire everyone who visits is being recognized and appreciated. And for us, we're just so incredibly grateful to be in a state that has so many artistic and cultural opportunities to share with the world.
The Vietnam Veterans Chapter 1054, Helping Others, is the next act of excellence. Would Jerry Denman and any guests please come forward? Vietnam Veterans Chapter 1054 continues to help vets in need and salutes hospital personnel and first responders. In 2020, this chapter gave $26,000 to vets in need and organizations that support vets, in addition to money for ROTC scholarships, the State Veteran Cemetery in Sioux Falls, and the Salvation Army. In addition to serving veterans of Northeast South Dakota and their families, the chapter recognizes the unsung heroes of today, healthcare workers and first responders. Taking every effort to be responsible and generous, this group donates their time and support beyond the color guards and honor guards to outreach in 9 counties in Northeast South Dakota. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
The chapter is being honored really for 3 things. The money that you've raised, $26,000, I have as a report for veterans in need and organizations supporting veterans, for your work to honor healthcare folks in this last year of COVID, and for the continuing work the chapter does in a 9-county area to provide honor guard for the funerals of military veterans. And I wonder if you would describe a little bit each of those things, what you have done to make them a success and engage your chapter, and what others could learn from you.
That last rite of that person being buried that day of his funeral is we're making sure that he is honored, World War II, Korean War veterans or whatever. We're just veterans helping veterans here. So
Talked about we ought to do something for the healthcare workers, and we'd started a program that was initiated by Bob Searing to have masks to hand out to our members that we have. And so we were getting more than we thought, and the conversation went, maybe we ought to just have something up at the hospital and we can give them out there as well. So then in conversation, Jerry said, why don't we have the honor guard? And I said, that sounds great. We can have the honor guard. Coordination was made with the hospital as to what time would work for their shift change, so we could get the outgoing day shift and the incoming evening shift. And when this was all set up, we put it together and we went up there, and it turned out really nice. They were very appreciative, all of doing this. We felt good about it. They felt good. The community felt good. And I tell you, it was a time when we needed a lot of good feelings, because it was last fall when a lot of people were really down.
I have a note that says the chapter raised $26,000 to support veterans in need. Tell us a little bit about that and what you did.
And what we do with this money is our biggest thing is at Christmas time. We get in contact with all the veteran service officers and let them know that we have gift cards for veterans and family that are in need at Christmas time. And this covers 8 counties? 9 counties. This covers 9 counties. So we get 9 county veteran service officers that make a list of individuals. They don't give us a list. Everything is confidential, but they make a list of people that need these funds. And that is where the money goes. We have no idea who gets them. It's all confidential, like I say, but we've got a lot of thank you cards from veterans that have received them.
Our second to last act of excellence is Watertown Healthy Youth is our next act of excellence. Would Kelly Rumsa and any guests please come forward? A coalition in Watertown is showing it's serious about making the community a safe and nourishing place for its youth. The Watertown Healthy Youth organized a few years ago as a community coalition to focus attention on educating young people and parents on the risky behaviors and choices that can affect the health and safety of children and teens. As the WHY website puts it, we identify specific concerns affecting our youth and organize and promote ways the community can work together to make Watertown a healthy and safe place for our youth. Watertown Healthy Youth is the measure of a community's heart. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
What prompted this initiative in Watertown that would be perhaps different than another community in South Dakota?
Okay. Actually, what prompted Watertown Healthy Youth was our school district back in the late 90s. Through their strategic plan, they had community members part of that process, and we had a couple key stakeholders in the community. One was a minister in the community, another was some business people, and they felt that we really need to be focusing on the health and well-being of our students. We're concerned about some risk-taking behaviors that were going on, and they really wanted the school district to focus on that and find out what are these social issues that are impacting our students. And because of that involvement and the community wanting that and the partnership with the school district, they surveyed our students. We found out what some of these issues were, but we also found out what some of those protective factors were as well. And from that, we built a community coalition so that we could address. So not only were we addressing the issues with our students, we were also addressing that same message throughout the community. So it was really that ownership and partnership that has made our coalition as strong as it is right now. We're always going to be here for our kids. We're going to focus on those social issues, and we're going to try to be that resource to our community.
What are maybe your top go-to tips from this work that has come out of this organization?
If you can find something about them, an interest. One thing that works really well for me is, we eventually get to the subject that we need to get to, okay? But again, working on that relationship, looking for those things about that child, about that student, okay? Pets works really well for me. Animals, okay? I myself am an animal lover, and I have some things in my office, some pictures and things like that are great conversation starters. Or maybe they have a piece of clothing on, that, oh my gosh, that's just a great color on you, to start out with something positive. Even with those kids that it's a challenge, that sometimes we have to really dig deep to find something that might be positive.
Joe, what would you say about the conversation with parents in a similar manner?
When parents recognize that they have resources available to them, when they recognize that, wow, they have people on their side, I think it makes a big difference. When parents come, they leave and they are thankful and they are grateful.
You know, the coalition is the community. And so it's the, you know, we couldn't do what we do without the partnerships that we have.
Right.
Our final act of excellence is WW Tire shows relentless drive to satisfy customers. Would Shane Wheelberg and any guests please come forward? After years of working for other employers in the tire business, Wayne Wheelberg took the challenge in 1975 to start his own business. What began as a modest tire shop has grown into a sustainable family operation. Each of the Wheelberg children, along with their spouses, work for WW Tire, and the business locations are in several South Dakota cities. Customer satisfaction has always been the driving force for WW Tire from the day it opened. Local folks say Wayne's relationship with customers and his relentless desire to provide outstanding customer service represents a daily pursuit of excellence worthy of recognition. Please join me in a round of applause for this act of excellence.
Building as a hallmark of your business a relentless desire to provide excellent customer service. And I wonder if you would talk a little bit about what would you say to other South Dakotans about how they could emulate what you do?
I guess service is in our name, for one thing. I mean, when Dad started the business in 1975, it was in a little corner gas station in Bryan, South Dakota. That's still, we still own that property, but that is where our home office is still located. We've just slowly grown the business over the years to where we are today. And we still feel that the customer is number one. And, you know, we try to do our very best to provide the best service in the industry and just to take care of our customers.
Are there stories that were passed down to you as somebody growing up in the business about how that excellent customer service was exemplified? I mean, are kind of legends build up around how companies went the extra mile? Are there those stories in your family?
Oh, there's countless times, you know, I mean, farmers farm 24/7, right? So it doesn't matter what time of night, day, whatever it is. You know, when Dad was first starting out, he'd go out anytime, you know, anytime a farmer called. It could be 2 a.m, it could be 5 a.m, it could be multiple 3-4 times a night on different farmers. He knew they had stuff to get done, so therefore we had to take care of them and get them back in the field or their feedlot or whatever they were doing. So you know, that basically he just made sure that they were going to call us back because we were going to take care of them when they needed us. You've heard the term South Dakota nice, and I feel we kind of amplify that, or we try to greet the customers when they come in the door, make them feel like we want them to be in our place of business, and which we do obviously, and just try to make them feel at home. You know, WW Tire is built on family. There's a lot of family members in the business. We consider our employees our extended family, and that also extends to our customers. You know, we consider them family too, because they're in our fold. We try to keep them there. We want to, you know, keep them happy with what we do for them.
When you look out at South Dakota in terms of its, you know, business opportunities in the future, what does that future look like to you from your perspective?
I feel, you know, South Dakota kind of revolves around farmers. And if the farmers do well, South Dakota does well. Farmers are innovators. They're cutting edge.
What would you tell that young entrepreneur about the joys, the struggles, the values of being a business owner in the state of South Dakota? What advice would you give them?
Just treat people the way you would want to be treated. Give people a fair shake, and they're going to give you a fair shake. Be honest, be trustworthy, and the people will come to you.
So congratulations to all, and please join me in one final round of applause for all of our winners. Greta Chapman has some closing remarks for us.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you very much for the great MC. We just want to, again, remind folks of what happens every day in South Dakota. And there are great examples here. And at the same time, to encourage others and share those stories in such a way that people will not only continue with acts of excellence, but also think about folks that you would nominate to be inductees in the Hall of Fame. There is a how-to card for submitting an act of excellence on the tables. It's as easy as up to 200 words. And we would encourage you to look and keep track of those things that are going on throughout South Dakota, because it is our mission to have a culture of excellence, and this is certainly representative of that. Thank you very much for taking the time to celebrate with us and be very proud of all that you've done. Thank you.